Hey guys, and welcome back to the Kobi Simmat audio experience. I hope you're enjoying our podcast episodes as they come out every couple of days. In this episode, I've got Keanna here, or Special K as we just decided, here in the studio with me. She's on the sunrise of her career. She's just finishing studying at uni, and we've been asking the interns to come to me with questions. So hopefully the answers to my questions are going to help you if you're somebody who is in your career and getting going. Hopefully I'll bring you some value. So fire away. What have we got today?
Good morning.
Morning. Morning.
So I have an interest in developing a service through an app. I am interested in marketing, but I like to see it as like a bit of a side project, maybe one day continuing with it. So my first question is, when starting your own business with the center of it surrounding an app service, what are some key aspects to consider when outsourcing the development? Because I obviously don't have any programming knowledge, and I feel like that would probably be the best way of doing it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the first, I guess there's a couple of principles that I talk about regularly with people. There's a couple of things. It's really important in business as a principle to understand parallel competencies. There isn't a job in this company that I can't do. And so I don't think it's going to slow you down to go and actually learn some coding skills. Go and see if you can find apps that do something similar. So if you're going to start a business, you want to go do the market research. So the first competency you need to have is market research. Otherwise, you're just delusional. Because if somebody's already solved the problem, then you want to look at what they did, what stage of the journey they're on. Don't let it stop you, because it's better to be the best in a flooded market. It's better if you've got a competitor. A lot of people, when they're starting businesses, they're like, oh, that idea's already taken, I'll go find another idea. It's better if the idea is taken, because all you need to be is better. So if we use smartphones as an example, you had back when the Apple iPhone 3 came out, everyone had Nokias or Blackberries. But over the last 20 years, Apple has taken over. Now we've got Samsungs, and we're an Apple office and we're all Apple products with iPhones, and most people have iPhones, but there are still Samsungs out there, and you'll have friends with Samsungs and they love the Samsung because the features are better. Yeah. And so there'd be features of a Samsung. Maybe the camera's better. Maybe there's some processors better. Maybe some shit about a Samsung is better. I don't know anything about Samsungs, but I know that people like them, and when I talk to them, they're saying they're better than an iPhone. I'm like, well, tell me what's better about them. What's better about iPhones for me is they don't stop. They're simpler, they don't have as many features, and as a owner of a fleet of iPhones, like 50, they work. And I've tried Samsungs and Microsofts and Androids were a bit fickle with like stopping and starting and updates and those sorts of things, and Apples just tend to work. We can go into, if we have issues, we can go into the Apple store, we can just flip them straight over, we can be back up and running really quickly. And so for me, it's about lost time and uptime. So I think when we come back to answering your question and saying, okay, what do we need to do? Parallel competency is really important. And so, if you're a restaurateur and you're running a restaurant, you've got to take out the garbage occasionally. And so you're going to need to be in a position where you can, if there is small things that can be fixed in the code, you can go in and fix them. And so then you can also potentially code quickly. Now, you might be scared of it, so you can't code yet. Carol Dweck talks about a learning mindset. And so I think it would be important for you to be going and learning that parallel competency, because then you can answer your own question about whether you should insource or outsource the development, because then you know how much work's involved. Because the first thing that's going to happen with no knowledge is someone's going to come in and they're going to pitch you, and you don't know if you're getting a good deal or not. And you're going to have to work pretty hard to do your due diligence on that supplier to know whether they're going to burn all of your money and all of your resources and take 10 years to develop your app.
Yeah.
So learning some simple basics. They're teaching coding now at primary school.
There's an app that I have on my phone, so I'm starting to think about learning that. And also I found out that there's actually, I forgot what it's called, but you can actually use this application for converting Apple to Android as well, but there are some advantages and disadvantages to that too.
Perfect. And there's going to be tons of that, and then once you've got your sort of like a basic version mapped out, then you can start to say, okay, well, how am I going to go forward with this? Yes, you've got to outsource. You've got to play to your strengths. You've got to work out what your strength is, but it's important to understand the parallel competencies. I understand financial reporting. I understand financial reports. Do I like doing it every day? No. I don't. So I pay somebody to do that. I've got a head of finance. I've got a head of operations. I've got a head of commercial. I've got a manager for marketing. I do love marketing, but I don't have an attention span that can let me sit down and do some of the stuff that takes 3 and 4 and 5 hours. I'm very good at talking. So the most meaningful, high-value thing that I can do every day here in this business is talk and start to process and lead and guide and motivate and input positive energy. That's the best thing that I can do. What we're doing right now. Then we can start to say, okay, well, what can different people do? But I need to learn and understand what people need to do, and I need to understand the outcome so that I can check that it's on track.
Yeah, nice. My second question is, what would you suggest doing and planning in the early stages of working towards one day developing an app? Obviously, you've already said education. Is there anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, look, I think you want to develop the app. I think the first thing, in let's say we're going to solve a problem. Like whether we solve it with an app or whether, there's different ways. That problem currently exists right now. Learning everything there is to know about how the problem is currently being solved will give you empathy towards the customer that's going to buy it. Like at the end of the day, we're doing it because someone's going to buy it and we're going to use this methodology to make money. Maybe we're going to use this methodology to make lots of money, and that's part and parcel of this. Getting really passionate about the problem and getting really passionate about helping the people that have that problem is the very first thing that we need to do. Truly understand the problem, understand the pain point, and then understand, more importantly, if people are going to be prepared to pay to solve that problem. Because the first mistake we can make is, yes, we may have an amazing idea, but it's not really a big problem for a lot of people. And I've watched a number of businesses over even the last 12 months try to get started, but the customer doesn't want to pay to solve the problem. Like, yes, it's a problem. We all agree it's a problem, but the mindset of the community doesn't want to pay money to solve the problem. And so I'm seeing people really struggle. They haven't actually, they haven't really worked hard on their selling skills, and also the community doesn't want to spend money on the problem. So we've really got to start to think about, actually, it's a big problem that people want to spend money on, and that is going to make your life a lot easier, and it's going to make everything go much, much faster. So you want people to be saying, oh, that's an amazing thing. It solves my problem. I can't believe it. Take my money. That's where you want to get to. So the very first thing you can be doing is that, learning as much as you can about the problem. And then the second thing you can be doing is learning as much as you can about how to run a business. And being right here in Best Practice is the best place for you to learn that.
That's great.
Right.
My third question was, which business structure would you recommend starting off with?
Definitely not a partnership. So partnerships are bad news. I know there are people out there with partnerships, but it's like marriages, partnerships. Partnerships are like friends without benefits. So it's like you've really got to be thinking about that. Sole trader is a no. So if you're here in Australia, it would be proprietary limited. If you're in the US, it's LLC, limited liability company. And so you just go all in. You'll go see an accountant and they'll say, don't do this. It's $2,500 to do the tax return every year. They're like, don't spend the money. It's bad advice. Start a private company, register the private company, get the shares. That's informal corporate structures. You're not going to be Australian Stock Exchange listed straight away because it costs $1 million a year to just do the reporting to the stock exchange. So you need to be a certain size to do that. And when I say $1 million, that's the CEO and the CFO and the cost of the reporting and the auditors. All adds up to about $1 million to run an ASX. Australian Stock Exchange company. I don't know what it costs to run a company on Wall Street. So the first thing you're going to be doing is just registering a company. You just register it and then start doing things like getting your domain names, starting to, go to your marketplace, start building a community of people on Instagram, and then start registering the names of companies and putting the engine behind it. And then starting to think about how you're going to fund it. Are you going to fund it from like wages from earning, like working in a job, or are you going to do a capital raise?
Yeah, that actually leads to my next question. Oh no, I'll do this one. Yeah.
Yep.
When starting your business, how do you work towards gaining investors, or would you consider aiding your own contribution within your business with investors?
Yeah. I can't answer the question about investors because I have built this business with no investors. Yeah. So unfortunately, I think at the moment we all think we need investors. Yeah. What you really need to be doing by doing that deep dive on the problem you're trying to solve, then working out your costs to solve that problem, then you can think about, well, where you're going to get that money from. So this particular business was started with an $8,000 tax return. So I was given a cash check. You know, I'd paid the tax, did my tax return. My $8,000 went into the bank. That gave me runway for 6 weeks. And so I could start doing stuff, and I didn't need to be paid for 6 weeks. Then I did a little bit of paid work. I put some more money in the bank. That gave me 12 weeks and then 24 weeks, you know, and then 6 months. And I had 6 months worth of runway in the bank. So when you start paying people like developers, because you're not doing it yourself, then you're going to need to actually get the money from somewhere. Work a job, spend the money developing your app, or go to the bank and borrow the money, or go to an investor. But the minute that you go out to somebody outside your family, it's not dangerous. You just need to understand that. Say, for example, I gave you $500,000. You got to be very clear with me about when your project's going to be finished, when I'm going to get my $500,000 back, and more importantly, you're going to times 10. You're going to 10x my $500,000 because I want $5 million back. So there's got to be really clear pathway to a 10x valuation on the money that I gave you and a particular time. And what we talk about in shareholder world is you'll have a gun to your head. And so if you're going to take somebody's hard-earned cash, I've worked really hard for that $500,000 or 20 grand or whatever it is to give you runway. You're going to give it to a developer. The project fails. The developer walks away. You know, they've bought their cornflakes and they've paid their rent, and you've paid your rent and bought your cornflakes. I gave you the money. What do I get in return? And so it's about having empathy. So I think there are too many people right now thinking they need to be entrepreneurs and raise money without actually spending time. And look, no one's going to give you $500,000 unless you've got a good business plan, you've got a good project management plan, you've got a good set of milestones, and you've got goals, and you've demonstrated that you've already hit 2 or 3 goals. So you've got to hit some goals before you go out and ask for that money. So I don't want to stifle your enthusiasm. It's just giving you clarity around you've got to get a certain way by yourself and try and fund it yourself. I didn't want to have a gun to my head. So nobody gets to say anything that goes on here except me, because I own 100%, and I didn't sell out on anything. I funded it myself.
Yeah, I definitely want to do that, or at least as much as I can by myself before other people.
Exactly right.
So,
yeah. Yes.
Cool. There are obviously like a lot of security and law aspects to consider developing an app. Where do you see a young person learning more about this when they have a minimal budget?
Google. Absolutely. Yeah. Like I Googled some laws last night.
Yeah.
We've got another junior person starting who's got a law degree, who's coming on. I have been making most of the inquiries about the laws and regulations we need to comply with for the last 16 years. I did do a regulatory job before I started this company, but it's just recently that we've brought on somebody with a law qualification. They're going to be starting shortly. But we have retained legal counsel. So we have external lawyers, and there may be people like, you know, university students that are solicitors or whatever, that you can loop them in and be part of your team. But certainly Googling, and that again comes back to learning as much as possible about the problem. You know, and then you can start to look at information security, cybersecurity, privacy rules, you know, the data, and just, you know, personal privacy rules for whatever the problem is you're trying to solve. So the more that you spend doing that research and you know, look at the second page of Google, look at the third page of Google. The one thing that I recommend to everybody in anything you're doing in terms of Googling is make the Google search longer. You usually Google like 2 or 3 words. Google 20 words. Like, write the sentence. What are the privacy rules for the development of a logo generating app? You know, and make it a really long question, because Google then can give you a better answer. It's absolutely more specific. So longer Google search terms and more Google search terms, and looking at the second and third page to look at what's in that black text in that results is going to give you a much deeper set of understanding and knowledge.
Nice. My last question is, as a young person beginning their career, what are some good personal investments to consider and work towards?
Personal investments. I think the number one thing you should be investing in between 20 and 30 years old is your own brain.
Education.
These things here on this shelf, like, these are not props. As you guys know, I buy a lot of books. I was just telling someone this morning, I think it's Thursday. I think I've already bought 20 books this week. on eBay. Like I was showing someone my eBay account. Like they were like, I don't believe you. I was like, all right, have a look at my eBay account. And it's like, it was a binge this week. Like it's been probably one of the biggest weeks in a long time in terms of book recommendations and buying books. They're $30 each. Any of these books up here has got $1 million in it. Like, you know, I can put High Performance Habits, Brendon Burchard, just pull it off the shelf. For you in your career in terms of making money, High Performance Habits, for all of you guys, this book, if you read this book and implement this book, it will make you $1 million in the next 5 years.
I'm definitely putting on my list.
It's $30. Like it's $30. You could probably borrow it from me and it's free, but it's obviously about implementation. Like any of these books here, you know, in terms of, you know, any of them, Walk in Their Shoes, Dr. Seuss, probably not Dr. Seuss, but, you know, The Daily Stoic. You know, this book here by Ryan Holiday. I met Ryan Holiday in London. You know, The Daily Stoic, 366 meditations on wisdom, perseverance, and the art of living. Ryan Holiday. If you can be stoic and not be emotional and react in business, you've got it over 95% of the business population. That'll make you won't lose $1 million. Jordan Peterson, 12 Rules of Life, Emotional Agility, Ego is the Enemy, Ryan Holiday. You know, just some of these books that are up on the show, Emotional Intelligence. The sales books are all there on the floor, Learning to Sell, smashing it. So the best investment you can be making is in yourself. And I guarantee if you read for 30 minutes every day out of any of the books recommended out of my library, you will double your income every year.
I finished So Like Crazy a couple of weeks ago.
Terrific.
Which was a good book too.
Excellent. The trick now, when you come into this office or any of your friends, tell them about what you've read in the book. To cement the knowledge of what you're reading in any of the books you're reading, you've got to tell people. I just read a chapter. Even if it's at home at the dinner table with your family. Hey, I just read a chapter of Sell Like Crazy. Can I just talk to you about a chapter? They don't have to listen. The goal is to actually be having your brain process it and then coming out in your own words. And that is 95% of why I'm so successful and I'm doing what I'm doing. It's because I'm teaching people.
Yeah.
I'm processing it and I'm spitting it back out. And then I hold myself accountable because you think, fuck, I better do that.
No,
Makes sense?
I definitely like that advice.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, that's been episode of the Kobi Simmat audio experience. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I hope this content that we're bringing to you and the vlog and whatever we're doing, if you have got questions, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. If you're watching on YouTube, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you are listening to the Kobi Simmat audio experience on podcast, copy the link, text it, message it, DM it to your friends so more people get to hear this great advice that's coming out from Best Practice and the Kobi Simmat audio experience. I will see you out there on the hustle if I don't see you right here next time on Best Practice TV. Bye for now.